Dr. Rangarajan, are you surprised by what the action, or does it fit in with the RBI's inflation-fighting credentials? Is this what any RBI governor would have done in the same circumstances?
It is very much along expected lines. I think there are two components to the policy. One is the normalization of the extraordinary measures taken in July. Therefore, the MSF rate has been steadily brought down. On the other hand, there was a need, and there is a need to send out the right signal regarding inflationary expectations, and therefore the policy rate has been raised by 25 basis points. I think it's a good combination. What will follow hereafter is that the policy rate will become the appropriate signaling instrument.
So one thing that was very impressive about Dr. Rangarajan's talk was that for the first time he emphasized the need for financial savings and the need to ensure that some kind of real return comes to the savers. Is it a realization at long last that unless you have savings, you can't possibly have investment, and unless that happens, you cannot have growth either?
Well, I think the compulsion to keep the rate of interest or the policy rate at a higher level is because that in the absence of an appropriate rate of interest, it does affect financial savings. In fact, there is a clear indication that the household sector's savings in financial assets as a total proportion of GDP is coming down. And therefore, if we have to ensure that the household savings in financial assets continue to remain at a high level, because that is the only source, as you yourself pointed out, for investment, we need to keep the financial assets attractive enough. And in fact, keeping the rate of return on financial assets attractive is also necessary from the point of view of preventing gold becoming as an asset of investment. Therefore, the concern regarding financial savings is appropriate.
So one thing that is a little surprising in the numbers that have come out is that credit growth seems to be pretty strong, almost 18%, much higher than deposit growth. Where does this money seem to be going? Because actually GDP growth is still very lackluster. So is this a puzzle? Is it going for restructuring of loans? Is there some evergreening happening? Where is this money going? And why isn't economic activity picking up if there is so much offtake of credit?
Well, I think the credit pickup is one aspect of the problem. But if you really look at it from the overall point, what is really happening is that a good part of the savings is also getting diverted into what we might be called non-productive real assets. And that is really the problem. I think it is not only a current account problem, but it is also a problem of how much of the savings is available for productive purposes. Therefore, if we keep the return on financial assets attractive, I think we can, in some way, attack two problems. One on the current account deficit and the other on getting the appropriate level of savings for investment.
Absolutely, sir. But also, is there a possibility that because the repo facilities, even though RBI had recently had quite a strict limit on how much they could borrow, we've had large liquidity deficits and banks have been turning to the RBI. Does that make banks a little reluctant or a little lazy about going after aggressive deposit mobilization, even if depositors, savers are not interested because rates are negative or rates are very low? Is it that banks are unable, they're not putting in the kind of energy that they used to earlier in deposit mobilization? Would you agree that there is some kind of tendency like that?
I don't know whether there is any lack of incentive on the part of the commercial banks to mobilize. But the whole question really is what is the menu of assets available to the households. Now, if there are other assets which have been more attractive than bank deposits, then people go there. But lately, as you would see, as all of us have seen, the prices of gold is not rising as fast as it did in the last few years, and the future prospects regarding gold prices are also not that bright, and therefore I believe that there will be a shift now from the other real assets into deposits. And it is in this process there is a dilemma. If you keep the interest rate on bank deposits down, then it will wean the savings away from the organized financial system. Therefore, the concern to maintain the rate of interest at the appropriate level. But I do not see any lack of interest on the part of the commercial banks. It is basically where we maintain the rate of return.
The governor also talked about 5 pillars in the developmental part of the policy. He talked about the monetary policy framework, needing to rationalize it. He also spoke about the banking structure, then about financial markets, how you need to broaden them and deepen them, then SME access, small and medium enterprises, access to finance, financial inclusion, and last of all, corporate distress and restructuring. Which of these pillars do you think is most critical to spurring growth? Because they've lowered the GDP estimate to just 5%. So which of these 5 pillars is the most critical as far as growth is concerned?
Well, you see, financial sector reforms are required in order to have an efficient financial system. An efficient financial system is highly supportive of economic growth. Therefore, in the various measures which have been announced, there are some which have an immediate relevance. There are some which have a medium-term relevance. For example, restructuring of corporate debt or matters relating to it would be of immediate relevance. But the monetary policy framework has significance, and not only in the short term, but also in the medium term. So we need to look at what the recommendations are going to be, because I think at this particular point, these are the constitution of committees, whether it be in terms of financial inclusion or the monetary policy structure. We need to wait for what the recommendations are going to be. But certainly that there are some issues with respect to corporate stress which need to be addressed immediately, and they should do it.
Dr. Rangarajan, really appreciate your time and so glad you could join us.